Good morning and welcome to the business news on Sunrise. Coming up this morning, finance analyst notes IMF upgrade a positive step, but warns Ghana must maintain fiscal discipline.
We should celebrate the fact that we've been upgraded, but we should also be cautious that the debt hasn't gone away. Restructuring doesn't mean the debt has disappeared.
Also in this bulletin, agriculturist urges focus on content, not consultation process in assessing cocoa board bill.
The broader, the bigger your consultation, the better the law.
Freight forwarders threatened sit-down strike over container charges.
We are extremely angry today simply because we have realized that we have stakeholders who do not regard regulations.
My name is Christabel Success. We'll bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Don't go away. The Chief Executive Officer for Daleks Finance, Joe Jackson, has cautioned Ghana against easing fiscal discipline following the International Monetary Fund's IMF decision to upgrade the country's debt sustainability analysis rating from high risk to moderate risk of debt distress. He warned that the nation's debt burden remains significant despite recent progress. Speaking on business focus on, the finance analyst said the IMF's upgrade should be reviewed as recognition of Ghana's progress rather than a signal that the country's debt challenges have been resolved.
As for the right boxes, we are ticking. The challenge is not about ticking the right boxes. It's about looking at what we've done that has brought us here and asking ourselves that, is it time to let loose or it is time to keep the pace and the discipline? You see, as for the foundation now, it has been built, but the house is not completed yet. The IMF says, you've done well. You are not at risk anymore. But that doesn't mean that the debt has disappeared. The debt is still there. The debt was restructured. Rates were created, were agreed with our debtors so that we could have some breathing space. Maturities were extended so that instead of paying our debt at that time, 2-3 years ago, it was extended, but it will still come due. So we should celebrate the fact that we've been upgraded, but we should also be cautious that the debt hasn't gone away. Restructuring doesn't mean the debt has disappeared.
That was the voice of the Chief Executive Officer for Daleks Finance, Joe Jackson. The Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Legal and Entrepreneurship Support Hub, Edward Karawe, has urged stakeholders to focus on the substance of the newly passed Ghana Cocoa Board Bill 2026 rather than concerns over the extent of consultations conducted before its passage. Speaking on business focus, Karawe said the quality and provisions of the legislation should be the primary basis for assessing the bill, arguing that broader consultations do not automatically result in better laws.
The broader, the bigger your consultation, the better the law. Not necessarily. So in order to deal with the specifics, it's to look at the bill. Which particular provisions you think that are not good enough for the growth and transformation of the cocoa industry going into the future, so that we can look at those ones. And then based on that, you can now say, oh, you think that if proper or broader consultation have been made, maybe those areas have been dealt with. But even if they are not dealt with, then you can still look at it then again. But in that way, because there was no broader consultation, and therefore the bill should go back to Parliament for consideration, and also that it has far-reaching implications for the future of cocoa industry. That is exactly what the bill is supposed to do. And in any case, this bill cannot be referred back to Parliament for what again? What are the weaknesses of the bill, said that you want His Excellency the President to return the bill to Parliament for reconsideration. I am not seeing it.
Edward Karaway is the Director for Policy and Advocacy at the Legal and Entrepreneurship Support Hub. It has been 31 days since the High Court cleared the way for the Ghana Shippers Authority to enforce a cap on container administrative charges imposed by shipping lines. But freight forwarders say some shipping companies are still charging well above the approved limits. The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders says the situation could trigger a sit-down strike in the coming days.
And one shipping says they won't beat us, because they are the Lord themselves.
Anger and frustration among freight forwarders and clearing agents at Ghana's ports as they accuse some shipping lines of charging administrative fees well above the approved cap. The Ghana Shippers Authority has set an interim limit of 720 Ghana cedis per one standard 20 shipping container, following complaints over high charges. The High Court on 10 July dismissed an application by shipping companies seeking to stop enforcement of the directive. But freight forwarders say some shipping lines continue to charge thousands of cedis.
We are extremely angry today simply because we have realized that we have stakeholders who do not regard regulations, who do not obey the laws of the industry, who think they are bigger and better than everybody in the industry, so they do whatever they want. They do everything at their whims and their caprices. That is why we are extremely angry, because we can't live in an ecosystem whereby one entity believes that they don't obey the laws of the ecosystem.
The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders laments that the continued charges are increasing the cost of doing business at the ports. It is demanding full enforcement of the directive and has threatened a sit-down strike if the situation is not resolved.
If you keep talking and you don't get the needed result, you demonstrate. We are going to demonstrate big time. That is why we didn't want to get there. But with what is happening, we have no option to demonstrate, to go on sit-down strikes. We are going to bear our feet to the government. Because if the government decides not to apply the law, not to punish them, not to discipline them, but we citizens should suffer, then we are going to prove to the government that indeed we have social contract with the government.
The Ghana Shippers Authority has directed shipping lines and their agents to comply with the 720 cedi cap and says it will take action against non-compliant operators.
Before we go, the board chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is calling for amendments to Ghana's corporate insolvency law to establish a special framework for financial institutions. Dr. Edu Anane Enchi argues that the current insolvency framework does not provide adequate protection for depositors when financial institutions collapse. He argues that depositors are at the core of the banking business and should not be treated like ordinary unsecured creditors after entrusting their funds to financial institutions. According to the SEC board chair, giving depositors stronger legal protection would help safeguard their funds while also strengthening confidence in Ghana's financial sector.
Dr. Edu Anane Enchi says Section 107 of the Corporate Insolvency and Restructuring Act places depositors too low in the order of priority during liquidation, despite their funds being the primary source of financing for banks and other deposit-taking institutions.
Under the law, it's like the depositors are only placed above shareholders, preference shareholders and ordinary shareholders. That is how bad I think our law is, that it doesn't give a serious attention to depositors' funds.
The SEC board chair says the law must therefore be amended to create a special framework for financial institutions, arguing that stronger protection for depositors will also help preserve investor confidence in the financial sector.
As for liquidation or whatever, it's like death. You can't write it away. Definitely a company, one or two companies may suffer going into distress and entering into liquidation. But if it's a financial institution, I think that we should make the provision better to cater for the depositors who have given their money to you Because those, I call it trust money. There's an element of trust.
We'll now take a look at how the cedi is faring against major trading currencies and how some of key commodities are also faring on the global market.
On the interbank foreign exchange markets, where banks trade amongst themselves, the dollar is selling at 11 cedis 77 pesewas. It's gained 1 pesewa. The British pound is selling at 15 cedis 92 pesewas. It's gained 6 pesewas. The euro is selling at 13 cedis 60 pesewas. It recorded no change. However, be guided that these figures could be higher at the Forex Bureau name. On the global commodities market, Brent crude is trading at $87.65 per barrel. Gold is trading at $4,386.47 per ounce, up by $44.91. Cocoa is trading at $5,932 per ton, up by $37.
What you just heard is an update from the Forex and commodity markets, and that'll be all for the business news on Sunrise. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com. My name is Christabel Success Trevor. The rest of the Sunrise team are on standby. Don't go away.